What's up, G.I. Joe fans? Welcome back to the M.I.B. Master Toy Museum. I'll be your curator today. Guys, got another cool one from our G.I. Joe Classic Collection section. In this episode, we'll be talking about the G.I. Joe U.S. Airborne Ranger. This was one of the many favorites of mine from this particular line of G.I. Joes, the Classic Collection line. Another very difficult one to find when it first came out. Very difficult. So I didn't get this guy in 1996. I ordered this off the Hasbro website. And that's ultimately how I eventually got this guy. That's how difficult he was for me to find in my region, in my area. So, very tough to track this guy down. And I picked him up in like 1998. That's how long it took. Between 96 and 98, with a lot of G.I. Joes coming out, trying to locate G.I. Joes and really cool Joes coming out. And not being able to find this guy, it kind of pushed that timeline back. So I was actually thrilled to death when I finally located this guy on the Hasbro's website. So this guy was shipped to me in 1998. Just a beautiful, beautiful figure. These big boxes that they came in. It's like a 1996, the resurgence of G.I. Joe, the new body style head sculpts that came out in 1996 for the Classic Collection line of G.I. Joes. We were done with the Hall of Fame G.I. Joes for the most part, and this was the new era of G.I. Joe. Better articulation. I should say superior articulation, superior head sculpts, weapons, accessories, gear, you name it. This particular figure had it. Let's get right to it. Let's open this guy up. Get you a blown out shot here of our U.S. Airborne Ranger, as he's called the Halo Ranger. Here's the insert here on the story of the U.S. Airborne Ranger. You can pause your video if you want to check that out and get some good reading in. Here's our beautiful G.I. Joe U.S. Airborne Ranger. At the time, this figure was absolutely way ahead of the Hall of Fame, his Hall of Fame counterparts. This figure was just beautifully made, realistic. Everything was made to scale. So G.I. Joe collectors were absolutely excited about the Classic Collection toy line, G.I. Joe toy line. There's this breathing piece here. He didn't come with surprisingly enough, see, you see his patch on the side of his outfit. He didn't come with a parachute. That's the only thing that's really missing from this particular G.I. Joe. And I know a lot of collectors that bought this guy and they customized a parachute for him. That was the only thing that was missing. He didn't come with a parachute. There's his knife there. Beautiful machine gun. Guys, if you're just joining us, welcome to the M.I.B. Master Toy Museum. We're just hanging out in our our museum today. So let's do a video. I was doing some cleaning up here at the museum, and usually when I'm down here, and if I'm down here for any length of time, I'm gonna come across a G.I. Joe that I haven't seen in a while. I haven't seen this particular G.I. Joe in about maybe 10 years. Guys, that's what happens when you get, you know, so many action figures. Things are put up in our archives, packed away. As you can see, this is a C10 museum example. It didn't come with any store stickers or anything. It was bought directly off of Hasbro's website back in 1998. And so, no markings on the box. The box is in excellent condition. Let's spin the box around. There's a side shot. There's our U.S. Airborne Ranger and all of his glory there. Suited and booted, as they say. They're ready to rock and roll. Let's turn the box around and get you a blown out shot here. And this is 1996, so you didn't have a lot of figures that were out at the time. We have all these guys, and I think at the time, I think when I purchased the British SAS, I saw this guy, the U.S. Airborne Ranger, Halo parachutist. And I said, you know, I absolutely, positively have to get this guy. And the search was on, and I can't tell you how difficult it was to find this guy. Very difficult, very hard. And one of my favorite Joes from this particular classic collection toy line. There's our Australian Operational Deployment Force. We have this guy. We haven't done a video on him. Actually, we'll probably get around to doing a video on him. Check our G.I. Joe Classic Collection playlist out. We have a ton of videos on there from our G.I. Joe Classic Collection toy line, action figure line. There's our U.S. Army Infantry. I believe we did a video on him as well. Let's get you a year. 1996. And this is when Kenner was still doing most of the production on these beautiful, beautiful G.I. Joe figures. Guys, what do you think of our G.I. Joe Classic Collection U.S. Airborne Ranger? Do you have this guy? Are you looking for this guy? Not hard to find. This is the Classic Collection line is not that expensive. It held its collectability though. But it's not super expensive. They're not super rare. Yes, some of these figures are a little more difficult to find than others, but as this one was for me. But you know, understand this is a, oh my goodness, this is over a 20-plus-year-old action figure. You know, so he's 22 years old. So some of these guys are going to be a little more difficult to find and locate. But for the most part, I would always start with Cotswold Collectibles. They have an extensive inventory, G.I. Joe inventory, that is constantly evolving and rotating. I would always say try there first, and then eBay. But if you're looking for a C10 museum example like we have here, I would definitely say Cotswold Collectibles, eBay second, and then if you're doing eBay, make sure you get a good description, an excellent description, especially if you want him in this condition. As you can see, our G.I. Joe U.S. Airborne Ranger is sealed, factory sealed. So just make sure you get the good description, a lot of photos, a lot of pictures of the product. And this outfit is awesome. It's a one-piece jumpsuit. It's got some pockets here on the side. Like I said, well, you saw it's got the Airborne, Ranger Airborne patch on that sleeve. I don't think he has anything on that sleeve. Backpack on for his parachute. H2 bottle, air oxygen bottle, I should say. I'm sorry. And I love this machine gun. Up top, you have his equipment list, everything that he came with. Oh, that's a Colt AR-15 assault rifle. Beautifully done. The collectors love the close-ups here. I'm going to try to get you some good close-ups. This is just a beautiful, beautiful figure. Like I said, one of my favorites. Guys, we got a fun week coming up for you. A lot more excitement, a lot more surprises. You know the routine, guys. God bless. And keep collecting.